Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Jaime McMahon, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to do this, and I'm super excited about our time together. So like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, and then we're going to go all the way up to today, and then talk about anything you're working on today, and then anything that you're working on for tomorrow, okay?
Absolutely, yeah, looking forward to it.
Appreciate you being here, bud. So where were you born?
I was born up in Canada, in Toronto, in a women's college hospital. It's kind of around the corner. I can see it from here, actually, from my window.
There?
I did. I grew up in Mississauga, so Mississauga being a suburb of Toronto.
Okay.
And probably as one of those, came from a kind of a boomerang generation where I found myself coming, back to and leaving and back to and leaving Mississauga. Yeah. So I kind of grew up in Mississauga, went to school in Mississauga, went to university in Hamilton, which is just maybe 45 minutes, an hour down the road, and kind of move out, move in, move out, move in. And yeah, so I've kind of been in this area for most of my life.
Now, is Hamilton in the US or is it in Canada?
It's in Canada as well. Yeah.
Okay, because we just did an interview last hour with somebody who taught at Hamilton in upstate New York. Yeah, of all places.
I think it's one of those city names where there's probably a million Hamiltons,
yeah,
right?
It's a small world, man. Totally. So growing up and it's called what? Mississauga?
Mississauga, yep.
Okay, so you grew up in Mississauga. What was your favorite thing about growing up there?
That's a good question. Soccer, probably. I played a lot of soccer when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, the area I was in was rich with teams and competition. A lot of my friends I made through sports as well. Yeah. So, I would say that would be my first immediate answer.
Cool. Growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Oh, my mother. I'm sure you get that answer a ton, right?
Yeah.
Definitely my mom. Yeah, I come from, I've got myself and my brother. I've got a younger brother, and it's kind of the two of us and my mom. So my parents divorced when we were quite young, and so she did an amazing job, I think. Anyways, I'm biased, but I think she did an amazing job of raising myself, raising my brother, showing us, both through action and words, what dedication, sacrifice, commitment, all of that truly means. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say that she was for sure most influential.
That's awesome
in my life. Yeah.
So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
English. Yeah. Funny enough, and I actually think it was because of a teacher I had. Okay. And I think we probably all have this experience where you have that one, really strong teacher that resonates or makes an impact. And for me, it was this lady, Mrs. Pitts. Okay. And she was my teacher for, I think, 3 years in a row, kind of grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. And yeah, she just had an amazing impact at me and really made me enjoy English, even though I didn't like the act of writing essays and, those types of things.
Isn't that amazing how a teacher can reach you?
Yeah, and again, it's all of the work that you do in that class was not a passion of mine,
right?
But the actual class itself, I looked forward to every day. So it's you're right. The people we meet and the impact they can have goes beyond, what you would expect.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. It's just invaluable the connection teachers can make with people and how it ends up impacting their lives and the direction they go. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So you graduate from high school.
Yeah.
And you head to Hamilton for college.
Yes.
Why did you pick Hamilton for college?
So probably like many I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, right? I don't know
Yeah.
that we're all equipped to make decisions for the rest of our life at 18.
Very few of us. Yeah.
And I knew that I was going to be able to get a job in engineering. So I was going to go to engineering, but I still was not sure what type of engineering I wanted to go to.
Right.
McMaster University, which is in Hamilton, allows you to kind of defer your major, so to
Right.
speak, for another year. So I could kind of go into general engineering in year one and then pick a specialty year 2, year 3, year 4. And
Oh,
so
cool. So you could figure out what you liked.
so I just delayed making a decision.
So here's a question for you. Why did you know going into college that it was going to be engineering?
I didn't. I think honestly, it defaulted back to I could do math and I knew I'd get a job there. I didn't know where I was going to go. And it's kind of just where I ended up. I don't know. It definitely wasn't by design.
I got you. Okay. So what
Yeah.
type of engineering did you pick after the year?
I did software engineering. So
Okay.
when I was coming through school, this was late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
And software engineering wasn't a discipline at that point in time. And so there's an instructor, a professor who had a vision that says, okay, we've got engineers for bridges and architects need to stamp those drawings to make them safe. But who is stamping the software that runs our nuclear power plants? Who's stamping the software that does all of the air traffic control?
Amen.
And shouldn't that be a discipline of engineering as well? And so I was actually part of the second accredited engineering class that went through software engineering with the intent of trying to provide that rigor to software development so that for life critical software that's used, that it has that same type of, no, this needs to be safe, as safe as the bridges, right? We need to think in that same way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So that was one of your professors?
One of my professors, yeah, Professor
What a
Parnas.
visionary.
Yeah, 100%. It was quite interesting. He was quite interesting. Yeah.
So in college, did you have a favorite subject other than engineering, like other than your major?
I really wasn't allowed a lot of electives. I think in 4 years, I got 2 electives. Literally.
So that would be a no.
Yeah. I took classics for both of them.
Yeah.
So I like reading books. I like reading, historical fiction, fantasy fiction, and I just ended up in classics and, Greek and Roman mythology. It resonated. So that ended up by default my favorite, but it was still by choice. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So you graduate from Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Then where do you go?
I went and worked at a bank. So for my first job, I worked at the Bank of Montreal here in Toronto. Okay. They're one of the big 5 banks here in Canada. Yeah. And I managed the website that did all of the corporate learning for the bank. And so basically, if you're going to do an internal MBA or if you're going to do some form of team building, you would go to this site that I managed, you would register, you'd come to our facility, and the facility was actually like a hotel. It had hotel rooms, it had catering, it had food, it had a swimming pool, a gym, everything you'd expect at a hotel. And yeah, I ran that for just over a year.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. So you leave, so it sounds like you leave Bank of Montreal. Where do you go from there?
Well, it's kind of funny. I got outsourced. So Bank of Montreal outsourced HR. And because we were part of the training, we were a function of HR, and I was in IT in HR. And so the firm that they outsourced HR to then outsourced IT at HR to another firm.
Wow.
And they asked me to stick around for a while to train my replacement.
Yeah.
And, being a know-it-all kid, I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. If I get Fridays off, I come in at 10 and leave at 3.
Yeah.
And, they basically laughed at me. So I said, all right, no worries. So we parted ways, and I kind of ended up doing nothing for a while. And then I kind of just found myself, one of my friends had been living abroad. They was in Japan. We made up for dinner. He said, hey, you should go live in Japan. I said, yeah, I should go live in Japan. So I think it was September when I had lunch with him. I applied, was hired, processed my visa, and was on a plane inside of 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And I lived in Yokohama. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So where did you work in Japan?
I worked for an English, like teaching English. So I worked for a company called Nova. They're kind of the McDonald's, if you will, of teaching English there, or at least they were. I think they've actually since gone out of business.
Okay.
But basically, they had a very curriculum-driven way to teach English to both to everyone, both professionals and those that are learning as a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So how long were you there?
Just over a year, maybe a year and a half. When I was there, again, I had no destination in mind, right? I was just kind
Right.
of living, and I
Yeah.
used it as a hub to go backpacking and traveling. So I, went to China, went to Cambodia, to Thailand, and kind of again use it as a hub,
Yeah.
and really kind of found a love for travel actually through that process.
That's cool. So it was a big adventure.
Totally, yeah. And I kind of went in with a mindset of immersing myself, right?
Yeah.
So it's learn the language, although don't ask me to say anything now. It's over 20 years ago, and I think my vocabulary is
Yeah.
completely gone. But yeah, I lived there for about a year and a half, and when I came home, there was actually you kind of develop a little bit of homesickness. I remember my first Christmas that I was there, and it's an odd feeling because how big Christmas is over here in the Western Hemisphere. Well, there it's just another day. Like it's not a holiday, and so it's not a day off.
Right.
And especially with the time zone, I remember waking up in the morning, and it just happened to be my day off. I remember waking up in the morning, going, "Oh, it's Christmas. Okay, better call home." So I called my mom. I opened my presents with her on the phone, and then we were done, and it was great. And then I was like, "Okay, now what? Like, I've got nothing to do on Christmas. This feels crazy."
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I think it's time to head home.
Yeah.
So
Made you miss it.
it did. Yeah, totally.
Okay. So you head home. Then what do you do?
So I head home. I ended up working. So when I was in, as part of my summer jobs, I worked at a technology company actually,
Mhm.
and I got kind of like temporary work, if you will,
Yeah.
and doing like contract work, etc. But I did that for about 6 months, and then I ended up moving to England.
Okay.
So my father was born in London, and
Okay.
so I was able to get a work visa, and so I moved to London. I worked there for about just about a year as well in a place called Watford, which is a
Okay.
suburb in the northwest of London, and I worked for GE Finance and Home Lending, I think at the time, and basically they were going through a rebranding of GE Finance and Home Lending to
Right.
GE Money,
Right.
and GE obviously being General Electric.
Right. Okay. So real quick, let me back up for just a second. What was the number one most important thing you learned living in Japan and working in Japan?
Say yes more.
Yeah.
And even heading to Japan, it was, I think sometimes we build a habit of just saying no or being too afraid of risk.
Right.
And I kind of just made that snap decision to say, let's go. I'm going to do this really quick, which is kind of unusual for me. I'm going to go and make this decision, apply for this job, get it, move, and do that rapidly. And so then when I went, I kind of went with a mindset of, how do I say yes to more easily? Like, how do I not say no to things that pop up, or how do I not create reasons to say no? So I think that was one of the biggest lessons, is to kind of silence, or at least not only listen to, maybe that's a bad idea. It's, maybe that's actually a really good idea. Let's go do that. Let's give it a shot.
So do you predominantly not like change?
I would say historically I haven't, but
Yeah.
I'd say my risk profile is much different now than when I was younger. I was, definitely very comfortable and to just kind of do a very pattern centered, here's my routine.
Yeah.
But now I crave change. I crave new.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it's like basically flipped.
Totally. Yeah.
That's
And then
so cool.
that Japan experience and just a whole living abroad was, I think, part of the catalyst for that, as well as kind of going experiencing other cultures
Yeah.
while traveling. That, I think, that really opened your eyes.
So was that what England was about? Was it about going to spend the time with your dad, or was it about more adventure?
I was actually following a girl. Yeah. So
There was a
I'd met
girl.
someone. Yeah, I'd met
Okay.
someone, and I ended up heading to England. Didn't work out. and it's when I came back. But yeah, originally it was for someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the crazy stuff I've ever done in my life has been because a girl was involved. Yeah. Right. Anyway. Okay. So you
Totally.
go to England, you work for a year, you said?
Yeah, I worked for just about a year. I kind of helped GE go through a rebranding process. So
Yeah.
they were called GE Finance and Home Lending. I helped them kind of go through the communication process of managing the change to GE Money,
Gotcha.
and I did that from from their London head office.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you end up coming back. Do you come
Mhm.
back because it doesn't work out with the girl, or do you come back because you miss home?
Probably more the former than the latter, but I would say the latter was definitely true. Yeah.
I got you. So you come back, then what do you do?
So I ended up so that the company that I was doing all of that kind of transition work in between Japan and England,
Mhm.
I actually ended up and going and joining them full time, and that was actually ProServe IT. And yeah, it's been over 15 years, 16 years
Wow.
now, so it's quite a while. But yeah, that's kind of my next, at least my career journey
Right.
after London.
So you leave London, you come back, and you go to work for ProServe IT. You
Hmm.
worked for them before?
Just in a temporary basis. I was basically contingent labor, so I was like lifting things and putting them on shelves.
Okay.
Very very manual, contingent type tasks.
Gotcha.
And then when I joined the company, I actually joined as a help desk technician. So I was
Okay.
just one of the guys answering the phone.
So helping people
And
with tech questions like,
yeah, your printer's not working,
yeah,
your laptop won't boot up.
did you plug it
Yeah,
in? Right?
yeah. Did you reboot it?
Right. What's that the number one thing that customer service gets, or number one thing customer service asks when people call and say my computer's not working? Like 85% or 83% of the time they ask them if they plugged it in.
I think the next question is, have you rebooted your machine? Because I
Right.
think that fixes so many things, and you're just like, I
Yeah.
have no idea why. It should be ones and zeros. Everything should just work, or it doesn't. But what do we know?
That is too funny. So
Yeah.
you start off on the help desk.
Hmm.
How long are you on the help desk for ProServe IT?
Uh, Not too long. I ended up, I don't know if it was by chance or however, I was on the help desk, and then we had a number of customers that had, things that we needed to help out with, and I ended up
Yeah.
kind of being converted into an on-site resource. So I would find myself working with customers, and kind of going to their offices and being more of a location-based technical resource,
Yeah.
setting up devices, setting up servers,
When the
technical.
plug-in and when the plug-in and the reboot doesn't work, you're the guy coming in with the cape?
Yeah, or when they hire 10 new people and need to deploy 10 new devices,
Yeah.
then yeah, I would show up and get you ready.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that? You look like you enjoyed it.
I liked the freedom. So again, I was a young I don't know how old I would have been at that point in time, but it allowed me to see the city,
Yeah.
because I've been to almost every tall building, not now because there's so many of them, but at that
Right.
point in time, I'd been to so many of the tall buildings downtown Toronto, because we had customers all over the place.
Yeah.
And it would actually allow me the freedom of that lifestyle. I could go and play beach volleyball or go rock climbing, for example, and I would organize my social life based off of how my customers were doing, or vice versa, right?
Oh,
If I knew I had a volleyball or a soccer match, and it
mhm.
was in this area, I would try and book a customer that would kind of be near there, so I could, piggyback and have those two kind of living more closely in sync.
There you go.
Yeah,
So you've been with ProServe now for 15 years?
I I've stopped counting.
Yeah.
It a long time, yeah, over 15, I think.
So is that an engineering thing? You stopped counting after 15? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Perhaps. Yeah, I'd have to go to LinkedIn. You know what it is? I'd have to
Yeah.
go to LinkedIn to tell me. LinkedIn will be
Yeah.
the arbiter of truth here. It'll tell me when
Right.
I started. Yeah,
Right. You go to LinkedIn and you go, oh, it's been 15 and a half years. Okay.
yeah. It's probably
That's
closer to 20, to be honest.
There's
But
your math for you, right? So what was your favorite thing the last close to 20 years that you've been with ProServe IT?
well, where I am now and kind of the journey is is quite different. I think my favorite thing and what kind of keeps me going now is seeing the team grow and helping people do things they didn't think they'd be able to do.
Right.
And being in a position over time to both experience that myself, to be put in positions where I was uncomfortable, to be put in positions where I had to challenge myself and really grow via leaps versus, kind of a typical linear path. And then be fortunate enough to be in a position where I'm able to help other people kind of take those same type of leaps and push people and, try and help them do more than they thought possible.
So how long were you in the field helping, like from the help desk perspective?
Maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a technical resource for maybe 5 years, 6 years. So I kind of went from being a help desk to being a service technician to being a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do more project-based tasks, and I'd be flying. Like I'd go to Winnipeg, or I'd go to Salt Lake City, or I'd go to Pittsburgh, and I would, work with a customer for.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.